All right. Well, welcome back, guys, to another uh, A Course in Miracles teaching session. Um, so this week we're going to go into chapter 2, which is going to cover the origins of separation. So we're going to go a little bit deeper in this chapter into the dynamics of the ego, which is the world, which is our body, which is our characters. And as I can attest to you a little bit now, which is why we're 2 weeks later on this session, is that even I myself have had quite a retreat into ego um, this week. A retreat into becoming a human doing instead of a human being. Um, and I think there's some teaching available in that too, because so much of it can seem to be sometimes things that happen that seem to be outside of my control, right? Um, they seem to be something that this Patrick character couldn't really help. You know what I mean? He's just trying to do the right thing. But even those can be a sign of resistance. And what I can tell you is up until recently, in the last few weeks, and even now I have glimpses of it, I've just entered deeply into this. The unconditional love was just starting to flow way more than before. And I was touching the light and I was getting really close, and then boom, all of a sudden, um, I didn't get sick, but somebody close to me did. So I'm looking after their farm. So getting up early in the morning when I would normally start my day with my meditations, but instead we got to get up early and we got to go and milk the cows and water the calves and feed the chickens and all of that. And then my ego delighted when I have this problem where I have all this milk because I'm milking the cow, and the farmers aren't really there to do whatever they do with their milk. And so I've decided to get into cheese making. Because I'm like, I need to do something with the milk. So I've started making cheese all the time, right? Because I feel like I kind of have to. I got to do something with the milk to preserve it or whatever, right? But it's all excuse. It's all excuse a little bit. The ego is kind of like doing, entered into a state of get it, right? I got to make cheese. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this out of the farm. We're getting eggs. We're getting the milk. We're making cheese. And then we're going to have food. And that's going to help us to survive or whatever, right? And it's a distraction a little bit. It's a retreat. And it seems like it's a little bit out of my control. Um, but sometimes those are what are called ego rebounds, right? They are they can happen out of nowhere. They can be like a disaster that kind of happens just as you are getting close to the light, right? Just as you're getting um, close to that uh, other side, you're starting to wake up, and then the ego's like, "Oh shit, let's get him back into track." But the wonderful thing is that um, every one of these retreats into fear, every one of these retreats into ego, once you catch on to it, is an opportunity for the Holy Spirit to come in and to strengthen your healing and your awakening even further. And so um, I've learned some lessons from this, um, and that putting the priority right on my spiritual life and my lessons on feeling the pain. And actually a huge reinforcement that kind of came through for me was uh of realizing that even things that you enjoy, like my ego character, this Patrick character, has taken up a new hobby of cheese making, and it seems like um kind of a nice thing, right? It's a nice thing that you do, but behind it is a pain. There is a drivenness in it. And it's not to say the cheese making itself is bad, right? Or the hobby or the whatever task you seem to be doing for survival, but believing in it, getting sucked into it, there's a pain behind it. And what I was neglecting to do is to feel that pain, right? And so what delights the ego is like, oh, I'm doing something, I'm accomplishing something, I'm learning a new skill, I'm doing something that's going to enhance my ego, or even just enhance my fridge full of food, right? But all of that is ego enhancement. But behind that was a reinforcement of scarcity, a reinforcement of yeah, of lack, and of needing to do something. And in doing something to address that lack, you're reinforcing it. So there's the pain behind it. So what I wasn't doing, I was doing things to try to fill a lack or whatever. But what I wasn't doing was just feeling it. And that is what has brought me so much advancement to my spiritual practice. And that's what I've begun again to do, more and more, of just feeling the pain and of realizing that things that the ego enjoys are actually driven by pain. So if you go to that enjoyment, and what makes it enjoyable, it's that I'm getting something out of it, right? So there's gettingness, and you only need to get something if you're lacking something. So if you sit with that gettingness and you like that, and you like that you acquired a new skill, and you like that you acquired a new cheese, and you got food that you can eat, and groceries are expensive now, so now you got free cheese. But sit with that gettingness and that pleasure. Right behind it is the lack, and the lack that you're actually reinforcing by believing that making cheese is going to help you in some way. It doesn't. Um, so when you sit with that, behind that is a deep, deep lack. And it's a lack of that every human being has, a lack of food, a lack of security, a lack of whatever. And as I sit with that more and more, you realize, whoa, no, 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 no. What it is a lack of love. This is a call for love. And so what I've been lacking, the pain that I've been in this retreat into fear, as I've gone onto the carousel of trying to get. And the more you get, the more you've actually reinforced lack. So what we need is not to get things, not, I don't need to even need to get my neighbor to get better so that I no longer have to look after the farm or whatever. What I'm lacking is giving. And so what I'm lacking is love. What I'm lacking is God. And when that starts to click, the love starts to flow. And you can do that while making cheese or doing whatever you are. But the difference is that you no longer believe in it. And you remember that everything in every moment, in every way, is for forgiveness. That's the purpose. The purpose is to love, to extend forgiveness, and to see that as the purpose behind everything. And when that comes through, that's when the peace starts to shine. And it's not a piece that shines because I've stopped making cheese or because I've kept on making cheese, but it's because you stop believing in it, right? You realize that even if you do it or you don't do it, it's just an illusion. So what all we're called to do in every moment is just to extend love. And when you do that and you realize you don't, doesn't matter whether the cheese messes up or you don't make cheese or you do, I'm just using my own example of my own life. But that's what makes the difference. That's what fills the void when you remember that your mission is to give. It is to extend love, to forgive, and to realize that anything else is slavery. Anything else is pain. Anything else just reinforces the separation, that we need something outside of ourselves to be happy, in a small way like cheese, or a big way like your finances or your house or your relationship or whatever. They're all the same. There's no order of difficulty in any of this. So I just wanted to share that as part of my experience a little bit. And just to notice too, that when things seem to happen outside of your control, it really isn't. It's outside of Patrick's control, yes. So it's not like this Patrick wanted people to get sick or whatever. But instead, the way that we can get off that treadmill, right, of ego, of trying to fix problems, of trying to get or to acquire or to find happiness on the outside. The key is to just stop. Even you don't need to stop all the time, but just frequently go to the pain, go to what you're feeling, feel the pain that's behind it. And once you've felt that pain enough, you realize, oh, okay, I need forgiveness. I need to have this pain healed because I'm just reinforcing it by trying to fix it on the outside. Okay, so that's kind of a precursor, and we can use that uh, to delve into the separation, because some of this will kind of come up in our section here. So I'll pull up our text. So we're moving on to chapter 2 here. So this is the separation and the atonement.
That was very helpful, by the way, Patrick.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thank you, Fern. Figured I'd share some of my examples of something that, because I think, yeah, because I think it's the correction that's the most helpful. We all retreat back into fear. And if we can redirect and find those keys to bring us back to our center, every one of those retreats is actually can be then a gift, becomes a call to love, and then brings us further ahead than we would have been without that. So it undoes the guilt of it too, right? Of that retreat. Okay. So we're going to go over the separation. So we've done this multiple times before. So a lot of this is going to be review, and that's really true of every part of this course. So it'll just have a little bit of a different angle on that. So we mentioned before that what we really are is a creation of God, right? So our deepest nature is that. And what is God, right? And so it's hard to put words to it, but if you had anything of the experience of God, you know it's this outflowing of love, right? This powerful, light-filled outflowing of love. And if those are just words, they're just analogy kind of. And so it's eternal, unchanging, yet ever expanding. And it's creative, right? And so when you love, you want to give, and then you see the light in others, right? And there's a creativeness to the love. And all of these are words, but when you go to that experience, you'll this will point you, I guess, to some of them. But essentially, because God is this outflowing of love that is also powerful and creative, he then creates things to love. They're not separate things. They're still a part of God, but that's what God's Son is. That's what we really are. We are this outflowing of love of God. And then we in turn do that as well. When we remember who we are, we have love that flows out and then goes to create you could say it's other people, but they're not ego characters. They're one with us. But it's this outflowing of love. When you realize that we're the light, it makes more sense. It doesn't make sense as a human. But anyway, because of that, what our mind is by its nature, it creates, it makes things. When we think something, boom, it shows up. And quantum mechanics kind of shows this. And it's not necessarily the thoughts of this Patrick character, but it's the thoughts of the one dreaming mind that is dreaming up this world. And so that's in our very nature. And so our nature is to create others and to extend love and to extend all the goodness, the peace, the love, the light that is within us. And so when this idea creeps into our mind, what happens if we're separate from God? What happens is we've taken our mind, which is a projector, that is meant to project love and light and oneness, and we open the projector, and we take out the love, light, and oneness, right? and we put into that projector this idea, what would it be like if I'm separate? What would it be like if we are not all one? And so it creates the world of sin, guilt, fear, separation by its nature, and that's what's put into the mind that then projects that out into the creation of the world that creates absolutely everything that you see with your eyes. So that's bodies, worlds, physics, time, and everything. Sunset, the beautiful things and the not so beautiful things, all of it within the world is created out of this idea of separateness. And so that is essentially what happened in the separation. None of it really happened. It was just a thought that popped into the mind of God's Son. And so none of it is true. It's kind of, you put a false thought in there. And so that is what we're now experiencing. But it feels real because our mind is so powerful. And what we think is that we try to make ourselves this tiny, powerless little weak creature in the big bad world because we're afraid of that power. Because then we'd have to realize that all the awfulness and evil that we see within the world is actually coming from us. We're like, we don't know. I'm just poor little Patrick. I'm not creating this World War III that's happening in the news now, and whatnot, or all of the true crime shows that I seem to enjoy as well, right? I'm not like those people. Okay, so, but the truth is that our mind is extremely powerful. And that is the huge gift that can come when we realize that when we're willing to face that, we can change our mind, open our mind to the truth. And as we do, we're changing the film that is in the projector. And so we're not trying to go out and change the world and try to make enough cheese so you have a whole fridge full of cheese and you'll be happy for the rest of your life. It doesn't work. But instead, we go in and change the film from sin, guilt, fear, separation, lack, scarcity. All of those are intertwined ideas of separation, to oneness, power, love, and light. And when that switch happens, then the world that you see, the veil of the world drops away, which is this physical world, and then you see heaven, which is the oneness, not just of emptiness, it is of joining. It is a oneness that shares, that gives, that ever extends infinite. Okay, so let's read. That's been a while. Okay, so to extend is a fundamental aspect of God, which he gave to his Son. In the creation, God extended himself to his creations and imbued them with the same loving will to create. You have not only been fully created, but have also been created perfect. There is no emptiness in you. Because of your likeness to your Creator, you are creative. No child of God can lose this ability because it is inherent in what he is, but he can use it inappropriately by projecting. So that's one of these words that within English, they kind of mean the same thing, but there's a distinction that's used. Extension of love and projection of guilt. They're all the same thing coming out of the projector, but one is true, one is false. So projection within a course is the projecting out of guilt, separation, sin, that belief within the mind outward. When we go to the truth and remember the truth of what we really are, that we are loving, that we are innocent, that we are holy, that then is extended outward. Extension and projection, they're the same thing, but they're used differently. One meaning the projection of the ego, and one the projection or extension of the Holy Spirit, the truth. So they use different words just for the same process. So the inappropriate use of extension or projection occurs when you believe that some emptiness or lack exists in you and that you can fill it with your own ideas instead of truth. right? That you can, if only you make enough cheese for will feed you for the whole year, then you will feel secure and you'll have enough food to survive, right? Insane idea. But your ego can get obsessed with it, right? So uh so what that is so once and the reason for that is not just because, oh, we just happen to put sin, guilt, fear, and scarcity in there. Scarcity is by its nature a part of separation. Because if we're not all one, if we're not all part of God with this giving, extending, uh, loving nature, right, that only gives and its fulfillment comes from giving, right? We then move into this space of that I'm separate, I'm empty. If we're separate, then we're not one with others, right? And so there's this, the lack comes intimately from the idea that we are not one. And so what our nature then goes into is, well, I need to get. We have this void within our soul that is so horrible, so horrendous that we push it out and push it down and project it into the need for food, the need for shelter, the need for relationships, the need for an economy, for good government, whatever it might be, for health. Um, all of those needs are disguises for this deep lack of forgetting that we're one and we're already in heaven in this giving communion with everyone. That's what we're always lacking. That's what we're not actually lacking it, but we believe that we are. And so it shows up in all these different things. So that is the nature of projections, not just because it's one idea that just popped in there. As soon as we forget that we're one, immediately we're lacking because we are denying our true nature. Okay. This process involves the following steps. First, you believe that what God created can be changed by your own mind. So we're going here into the projector. If we're going deep, 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 what are the beliefs? So these are not in Patrick's mind. These are in the mind of the dreamer, the same dreamer that's dreaming up all of us, Justin Trudeau, the government, Klaus Schwab, whoever you think of. It's the mind that's dreaming up the whole thing. So what beliefs are in that mind that are causing the projection of the world that we're seeing in front of us? The first is that you believe that what God created can be changed by your own mind. So that is the belief in change. That is the belief in impermanence. So that is an impossibility, right? So if God creates like himself and extends, if God is loving, is innocence, is givingness, he can only create with that same level of perfection. And so this idea, all these ideas have some insanity in them. How can God create something that is lacking? And obviously we experience lack and change and variability all the time. And so we think that because we experience that on the outside, it must be true. But instead, what we're doing is we're playing a movie of change within our mind. We place that belief into the projector that we can change things. We can take on that role of deciding what we are and what our true nature is. And so that's what we experience, right? That I'm a person that can acquire new skills, that can, accumulate wealth or lose all that wealth. And so I'm an ego, an autonomous ego that's trying to be independent within this big bad world. Um, and so there's this belief that we can change ourselves. And that when we realize that that's an impossibility, that's what will bring us out of the ego delusion. So that's one of the beliefs that we can kind of work on. The second one is you believe that what is perfect, so meaning ourselves, can be rendered imperfect or lacking. So yeah, so this is the belief in sin, right? This is the belief in harm. that somebody can do something to you and that will harm your body, that you can die, that you can, if that the government can tax away half your money, right? And squander it on their big vacations down south, right? So that is the belief that something can be harmed. And that comes with the idea that change can come into the mind. Change is the fundamental um, principle behind time. If nothing ever changed, there would be no time, right? And so time is only there because we believe that what God created um, can change, which means that there's some imperfection in it, right? Nothing, if everything was in the perfect state of union, eternal love and extension in abstraction, then nothing would possibly have to change, right? It doesn't really make sense. So the idea of change coming into the mind implies within it that there's an imperfection. It changes from one state to another state. One of those states has to be better than the next state, right? And you might go from good to bad, but even that implies a judgment that one is better than the other, right? And so this change implies that there's imperfection. Has to be. It's inherent in that. And when you realize that that's insane, that a God could create something that's imperfect, when that clicks within your mind, you'd be like, whoa, well, that means that what I'm experiencing must not be true. And that the truth must be in timelessness, in eternity. Then your mind will get transported off to that other realm, which is here right now, right? Okay. Okay, so these are just these different beliefs. They seem like just words, but when they click within your mind, it will shift your projector and radically transform your experience of yourself. Okay, so third, you believe that you can distort the creations of God, including yourself. So this is just kind of following from the first one, that we can basically create these characters, right? Because the creations of God that he's talking about is not Patrick. Patrick is not a creation of God. So following this idea of change, this ego character, this ego self, we're talking about the ego on a deeper spiritual level, not the truth, but almost as a separate entity before we splinter off into all these different people. And so on this level, there's this belief that we can distort the truth of what we are into these human characters, right? So we then experience other people as bodies and ourselves as bodies within a world that is changing, that is chaotic, that is volatile, and that is unfulfilling. Okay. So that's that distortion. And then fourth, you believe that you can create yourself and that the direction of your own creation is up to you. So this is the creation kind of again of our ego character, and that and our ego character's goal always is to be autonomous, right? Even if we have relationships with other people, they're voluntary, right? Like if I have a partnership with my partner and I'm with him because I like him and we get along well and we both fulfill each other's needs, and so therefore I'm an autonomous being within this world. I get a job and they're willing to pay me and I'll pay them, so it's a voluntary thing. But so I'm gonna the ego wants to be autonomous. It's wanting to be separate. Yeah, you want to have connections as long as you're getting something out of it. But there's this usurpation of this idea that we're a god unto ourselves, that my role is to protect Patrick. I need to do what's best for him and to get as much as I can out of this world while giving, as long as I'm getting more out of it than I'm giving, right? Even if I'm giving, sometimes it's to get that sad, so, well, I'm a giving person. You know what I mean? I'm better than the ungiving people, right? So, but the idea is once we take on these ego characters, there is a usurpation of the God role. But what we're trying to do is we are God. We are one with God. So that wanting to be one with God, to be in that God role is a natural thing. But what it's trying to do is being a separate God. I'm the God of Patrick's life, right? I'm the God of his life. I want to do everything that I can to make sure he's okay, right? And so I've taken on that God role for Patrick in his life that's separate from the lives of everybody else. And so that's kind of the ego's mindset for everything. Okay. This is getting intense. Okay. So these related distortions represent a picture of what actually occurred in the separation, or the detour into fear, which is where we are. None of this existed before the separation, nor does it actually exist now. Everything God created, our true nature, our innocence, is like him in every way. Extension, as undertaken by God, is similar to the inner radiance that the children of the Father inherit from him, this wanting to give, to create, to extend love. Its real source is internal. It comes from within us. This is as true of the Son as it is of the Father. In this sense, the creation includes both the creation of the Son by God and the Son's creations when his mind is healed. This requires God's endowment of the Son with free will, because all loving creation is freely given in one continuous line, in which all aspects are of the same order. So again, we've kind of gone over this a little bit, that our true nature in heaven is God extends his love to us, and that we in turn extend our love to our creations, which is one another, but on a deeper level in the light. And then that extends further and further, but there's always a givingness and an expansion, and it doesn't change. It's just an eternal giving and creation that we really are. And no part is better than, there aren't really parts, right? We're talking in analogies here, but no part is higher or more powerful or more holy than the other. It's all one. So it's not like I'm on top of you in the hierarchy and top of somebody else. It's not really that. It's kind of all one, but an outflow. It's hard to put into words, but you'll if you've had these revelation experiences, if you have forgiveness, if you feel that love flowing out of you to others, you'll start to get it. So the Garden of Eden, or the pre-separation condition, was a state of mind in which nothing was needed. When Adam listened to the lies of the serpent, all he heard was untruth. You do not have to continue to believe what is not true unless you choose to do so. All that can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye, because it is merely a misperception. Soon as we take those ideas of separation, of sin, guilt, fear out of the mind in the projector, they will disappear from your dream. You'll no longer see pain, suffering, guilt, strife, conflict, lack and scarcity within the world. It will disappear, and eventually the world will disappear, because the world is made out of those things. Okay. What is seen in dreams seems to be very real. Yet the Bible says that a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and nowhere is there reference to him waking up, right? So when he ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? Which is the experience of not just good, right? Before we ate of the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, all we knew was good. All there was is good, right? That's the experience of heaven. There's only innocence, there's only givingness, there's only light. As soon as we take on the knowledge of good and evil, right? The misperception of good and evil, that there's good and there's bad. There's good people, spiritual people, and there's worldly people. There's whatever. There's scarcity and abundance, right? No. But as soon as that comes on, that's what we experience within the dream. And we haven't woken up, right? That's just kind of an interesting thing that he kind of brought up here. And it was never mentioned in that story that Adam ever woke up, right? The world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. Such a rebirth is impossible as long as you continue to project or miscreate, right? As long as we continue to have sin, guilt, fear, blame, all of that within the mind, the projecting mind, the dreaming mind. It's it still remains within you, however, to extend as God extended his spirit to you. In reality, this is your only choice because your free will was given you for your joy in creating the perfect. So the truth of us is to that extension of love, that extension of innocence, to see no one as a body, to see no one as this character that we seem to see people as within the dream. It's not the truth of them. So we withdraw our belief in that. We still might see it for a while, but we withdraw our belief in it and don't look past it to the light. And then what happens is our main experience will be of others as the light. And that's when the love can begin to flow, and we can see the horrible atrocities and injustices as just a son of God calling for love, right? And doing that for our benefit. All fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God. And this is, it's so ironic. Like it really is. And this has started to click within my mind a little bit, right? Because our ego is so concerned with control, right? That like, because we're so fear-based, we're so lack-based, there's this lack within us. We think we can fix it by fixing the world. But then the ego wants to have control so that we can try to meet our needs within the world, right? And so the ego wants to usurp that role of God, right? Of being the God of Patrick's life and trying to look out for him. And that's what all egos really do. But what we're so afraid of is relinquishing that control and letting go of it and realizing, wait a second, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. And maybe I'm not the God of my life, right? Maybe I'm not. And when that comes through, this belief that, oh my God, well, I can't create myself. Like maybe I was created by God. Maybe the truth is that God can only create the loving, and that I must have been created by him. And therefore there's only one will within the world, and that's God's will. And when that clicks, there's actually, it's so calming, it's so peaceful, because you realize that God can only create like God. Therefore, I must be like God. I must be innocent. I must be loving. I must be giving. I must be all powerful. That is the reliance on God. It's not being like, well, I'm going to be God's little slave and do whatever he says. And he says, turn left, and I'll turn left and whatnot. It's not your ego character. It is a much deeper dependence on God, of realizing that I am created as he is, all powerful, all loving, unchanging, right? That when we realize our dependence on God, that gives us the power that we're looking for. That gives us the needs that we're all looking for when we're trying to control our own life and trying to meet our needs and fix our problems, right? When you let go of that and realize that God, there's only God, there's only love, there's only source and light. We cannot create ourselves. And so the ego is deathly afraid of that. But when you let it go, it's like, oh, that's what I've been looking for this whole time, right? And the power that comes from that. We think that we're thinking of the ego God when we think of God as an ego, which is this man in the sky who's out to get us, right? And sometimes he's loving and sometimes he's not, it kind of depends on his mood, but that's a God created in our image, right? So we're our ego is always battling with that God. It might be the God of nature, it might be God of the body, you know what I mean? It might be with a health condition, it might be the ego God controlling the financial system, making you go bankrupt, or the government taxing your money away, right? Those are all manifestations of the ego God. And so the ego is always in conflict with those entities, right? Who want to impose their will on poor little Patrick, right? Who's just trying to live his little life, right? And so that's why the ego is so contentious and does not want to give up that control. And so it thinks that if it gives up that control and um, allows the government, whatever, to tax my money away, that you're then going to lose, you know what I mean? You're going to be this doormat and you're just going to be walked all over and you'll die from it, right? But in fact, when we give up our will, it is withdrawing belief in Patrick's will, but also withdrawing belief in the government's will, or whatever your manifestation of the ego God might be for the day. It might be Sky Daddy or whatever. But when you then see the light in them, whatever person shows up that's trying to impose their will on you, and you see the light in them, because God's will is not about those things. It has nothing to do with whether you pay your taxes or not. But it's whether you see behind it and you see the love that comes in paying your taxes and in not paying your taxes and realizing that that's all just illusion. God's will is this eternal light that's just behind it. And so when you're in this healing process, often what will happen is you'll run into what's called the authority problem, right? Where you're realizing that, okay, I need to, following Patrick's will isn't getting me what I want. And so then what's going to happen is you're going to be afraid that you're going to have to give up your will to all these evil entities that are within the world. And I can't do that. I can't get vaccinated, right? I couldn't, you know what I mean? And so that's part of the illusion as well, because you're also the person dreaming up the government. You're the person you're the mind dreaming up the world of sickness and taxation and whatever it might be that bothers you. So seeing God's will is actually deeper. And when you can see the light through forgiveness behind that, you realize that that gives you immense power, because then you realize that whatever Patrick's will has nothing to do with who I really am. And so I can more than happily give up what Patrick seems to want, and see the light behind it. Okay, I'm getting kind of sidetracked here. Okay, so all fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God as a separate entity, rather than being one with God and sharing God's will of extension, eternalness, innocence. Instead, I'm going to usurp that role as Patrick and try to enhance my ego. Of course, you neither can nor have been able to do this. Here is the real basis for your escape from fear. The escape is brought about by your acceptance of the atonement, which enables you to realize that your errors never really have occurred. Only after the deep sleep fell upon Adam could he experience the nightmares. If a light suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming a fearful dream, he may initially interpret the light itself as part of his dream and be afraid of it. However, when he awakens, the light is correctly perceived as the release from the dream, which is then no longer accorded reality. This release does not depend on illusions. The knowledge that illuminates not only sets you free, but shows you clearly that you are free. You always were free. So one example of this for me, right, was in my awakening process, not that I'm fully awakened, but definitely much more than I was before. But that came through kind of a disaster, right? We had this whole awful COVID lockdown and whatnot, and then the college came and took my medical license and drug my name through the or at least this Patrick character's name through the mud, and there was a national smear campaign against me or whatever, right? All for just being poor little me and doing the right thing. So what was really coming through there? So if we look at it on the realm of spirit, there was a part of me as the dreaming mind that obviously had an ego agenda, right? Of wanting to see the guilt on the outside. But as this awakening was coming through, what was coming through really was a forgiveness opportunity. And that forgiveness opportunity was going to give me the greatest gift that I could possibly find within this lifetime, right? Which is of awakening to the light, of seeing finding the ability to see the innocence in others and to see that I'm one with them and that I don't really have any enemies, right? But that came, how did that show up at first, right? So when that light was starting to shine through in the dream, Patrick was seeing this horrible, awful nightmare. He thought it was like a truck that was coming at him, was going to hit him, right? You know what I mean? So he's like, oh my God, they're taking my medical license. I'm losing everything that I thought I wanted within the world. So it's like, oh my God, it was awful. But then I learned forgiveness, right? Once I started to see forgiveness, then that light of that truck that was coming to hit me, and crush me and drag me under the body of the truck, all of a sudden turned into this beautiful light that through forgiveness, and that truck then transformed into this heavenly um, uh, innocence, right? And oneness and joining that came when I realized that that truck was my brother, and I'm one with them, and they were never there to harm me in any way. They were only there to give me an opportunity to forgive and remember who I really am. And so that's kind of what they're talking about here. So when that light starts to shine through, when we're deep within the sleep, it can start as something scary, right? It can be the loss of your autonomy. You might go bankrupt. You might have somebody come and lock you up and throw you in jail for whatever, whether it's legitimate or not legitimate. It doesn't really matter. But you're feeling like you're losing your autonomy, right? Or whatever. Or you're losing something that you value. But when you can see it as a call for love, when you can see it as a forgiveness opportunity, and you realize that that forgiveness will give you way more than you could possibly get from that problem not being there, um, that's the atonement. So it shifts this idea that we're a separate self to the oneness, but it can be scary at first, is basically what they're saying. Okay, whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle. Okay, wait. Whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle, which can heal any of them with equal ease, whether it's a World War III or a hangnail. they're both they're both the same. They're both forgiveness opportunities. It makes no distinctions among misperceptions. Its sole concern is to distinguish between truth on the one hand and error on the other. Some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others. But remember, the first principle in this course, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. And so that's where I love my new thing now. Like before it was, I'm never upset for the reason I think, and now it's always helped me to see the call for love. When you realize the little things and the big things, all of them are just calls for love. And the call for love itself is the gift, because it awakens the love within you. And so when you can see that we don't have big problems or little problems, all of them are equally a call for love. So if we can send the love to this problem, send the love to the pain that is behind this, whatever unforgiveness might be there, all of them are equal in that way. And when we see that as our sole purpose behind everything, not to get something, not to fix something, not to, get everything right so that we can then be okay, all of it equally are calls for love. And so if in every moment we're extending that love through forgiveness or whatnot, um, then that's when this no order of difficulty in miracles will make sense, because all of it is illusion that needs to be given up. The good things, their birthday parties, or the horrible things like abuse as a child or whatever you might experience, both of them, the good and the bad, are all calls for love. They're all calls for forgiveness, because even good experiences within the world are driven by separation. So there's pain behind all of it, and they're all equal. And when you can see that clearly, that's when this will really click. It doesn't really matter whether it's something big or small. It's all equal. They're all equal calls for love, and that's when that power will awaken within the mind. Okay. Some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others, but remember the first principle in this course: there is no order of difficulty in miracles. In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. These can be from yourself and others, from yourself to others, or from others to you. Peace is an attribute in you. You cannot find it outside. Illness is some form of external searching. Health is inner peace. It enables you to remain unshaken by lack of love from without, and capable, through your acceptance of miracles, of correcting the conditions proceeding from lack of love in others. There's a lot in there. But essentially, all illness is, especially when you broaden your idea of what illness is, if you think of a physical illness, when you're in a physical illness, you want your body to be better, right? You think that you have a problem on the outside and that you need to fix it. If you fix it, you'd feel better, right? But um, but it's not really true. Um, I mean, it might seem to be true, but there's a belief in there that if I fix the outside, then I feel better, rather than realizing that the problem is just a manifestation of a pain that's already there. It's a searching for happiness, for God, where it can't be found. And that is true of anything, of working, of eating, of breathing, of making cheese. um, all of them reinforce the scarcity, reinforce the idea that we need something on the outside of us to be happy, whereas peace is an attribute in us. So once we stop looking, once we give up the search, that will then start to show up. And actually, it shows up most when we give it, even when we feel like we don't have it, because it's part of our nature. And when we see everything as a call for love, and we are answering that call for love in all moments, there's nothing that can't overcome. There's nothing that can't heal, because it awakens that same nature within others, and they remember who they really are. And that what you're healing is not the physical illness that might show up. What you're healing is that of that belief that they're lacking, that they need something on the outside. They don't really. When you see the light in them, when you see the perfection in them, they'll know that they're healed before whatever happens with their body, because they're not a body, right? So that's, as we do this, we begin to heal the dream, as we're healing that truck, those lights that are coming right at us, the headlights coming right at us in this world. And that's not just for us, it's for everyone, right? And so as we forgive, as we extend love to all the trucks that are coming to mow us over, right? They begin to transform into beautiful angels that are coming to visit us and give us something that we want, or whatever. But it's the light that becomes a giving of love. It's no longer a truck that's about to run us over. That's really what the healing and the givingness really brings. All right, so that's it for there. I'll stop it there if anybody has any questions or wants to share anything. No, if not, we'll move on to the meditation. All right. So I'll share my screen again here. So we're going to move on today to lesson 129, which is beyond this world is a world I want. And so what I'd invite you to is realizing that this whole world is full of trucks, right, that are about to mow us over. And to realize even the good things, because even the good things, like the awesome cheddar cheese that I made, will inevitably perish and die and only bring you a reinforcement of the lack that you seem to experience. And so, so part of this is the preceding lesson, which we've done before, which is this world holds holds nothing that I want. And that's the world of the ego. That's the world of absolutely everything that you see with your eyes. And so what this is opening us up to is of realizing that just behind it, just behind that truck that's coming after us, right, the light that's shining, is everything that we've always wanted. If we can just look into it, feel the fear, heal the fear, realize the mind is simply mistaken, and that just behind this world of trucks that are mowing us over is the light and the love that we've always been looking for. And so that's what this lesson's really going to invite us to. All right. Share my sound here.
To this holy instant now. An instant to stop and remember. Remember who and what you truly are, beyond the matrix of fear, lack, and limitation. All that seems to limit you in this world is only an illusion that demands your continued belief and attention in order to have any power over you. Now is your opportunity to let go of whatever stands in the way of your complete awareness of your true and original self. Before we begin today's practice, make your intention clear in your mind. What are you letting go of that has been in the way of your freedom and fulfillment? I'm letting go of fear, doubt, unforgiveness, judgment. What are you embracing that is in alignment with your desire to awaken to your true self? I am embracing love, trust, forgiveness, innocence. Take a moment to write your intention in the comments below, now or after your practice. Share them to solidify your intention in your own consciousness and in the world. And now, sit back with your spine upright. Get comfortable and take a deep, slow breath. And as you exhale, release both past and future. Release both memory and imagination, and become fully present in the now. And let's begin. Today, we practice with this idea. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Our intention in today's practice is to have a day of grace, a day in which you see the world you really want, and through this experience, through this new perception, to gain the realization that giving up the world that you do not want, the world of separation and fear, is a giving up of nothing in order to gain everything. So as you settle into presence and a deeper awareness of the now, bring to mind the idea that beyond this world, the world of perception based on the consciousness of separation, beyond this world, there is a world I want. Repeat the idea to yourself slowly several times and consciously feel into the meaning of the words. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. This is the thought which follows from the one we practiced yesterday, in which we got to realize the world I see has nothing that I want. But we cannot stop with the idea that the world we see is worthless. For unless we see that there is something else, something desirable, something worth reaching for, we would only lead ourselves into a state of depression. Our emphasis is not on giving up the world, but on exchanging it for what is far more satisfying, filled with joy, and capable of offering you peace. Projection makes perception, and that which is capable of offering you peace arises from a decision that you make within. It might be worth a little time to think once more about the value of this world. The world that you see through the eyes of the dream character's sense of self that this dream matrix offers to you. The world seen through the consciousness of separation is merciless indeed, unstable, cruel, unconcerned with you, quick to avenge, and pitiless with hate. This world gives, but only to take away all the things that you have cherished for a little while. No lasting love is found, for none is here. This is the world of time, where all things end. Is it a loss to find a world instead where lack is impossible, where love endures forever, where hate cannot exist, and where vengeance has no meaning? Is it a loss to find all things you really want and know they have no ending? How far away from this are you who stay bound to the world of the ego? And yet, how near are you when you exchange that world for the one you want? This is the choice. What loss can there be for you in choosing not to value that which offers you nothingness? This world holds nothing that you really want, but what you choose instead, you want indeed. Let it be given you today. It waits but for your choosing it to take the place of all the things you seek but do not want. All the things that you seek in this world in hopes of finding comfort and happiness, fulfillment and peace, all these will dissolve and leave you only the absence, only the lack, and only the unfulfillment which was there before. That is why this world offers nothing that you truly want. In truth, joy, peace, love, these are the gifts that you yearn for. It is the reason why you reach for goals and attainments and achievements in hopes to capture these elusive qualities. And yet, these qualities abide in you. They come from within where they always are, awaiting but your choice. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale slowly, begin by repeating this. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. I choose to see that world instead of this. For here is nothing that I really want. Try to say these lines with feeling and intention. Try to fully experience the meaning of these words. They are trying to inspire in you a real desire to exchange this world for the real world, and a genuine choice resulting from that desire, a decision that you would make. You are here to exchange the world of separation for one that does not oppose love, peace, or joy in any way. Feel the desire. Make the choice. And with your eyes closed, watch and wait. Wait expectantly for an experience of true vision, a glimpse of the real world. We are seeking to see a light of meaning and holiness that we can only behold with our mind's eye. And as you rest and watch and wait, feel your desire growing in you, your desire to see a world of meaning that is totally harmless, peaceful, benign, and loving without a trace of pain or loss. From time to time, or whenever your mind wanders off into unrelated thought, repeat to yourself, beyond this world, there is a world I want. I choose to see that world instead of this. For here is nothing that I really want. Do this now. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. As you prepare yourself for the rest of your day now, place this idea in your mind, and over the next few moments, allow your mind to relate this idea to your daily needs, your seeming problems, the decisions that confront you, and all of your concerns. Allow your mind to show you how you would experience the moments of your day differently if you were aware of this principle moment by moment. Do this now. And now, as you approach the completion of this practice period, take a deep, slow, and full breath in, breathing all the way to the top, and hold it as you behold the intention now to integrate the fruits of this practice period into your thought system. And as you exhale slowly now, relax and release and allow the integration to take place. And remember to bring this feeling and this idea with you into the rest of your day. Remember your decision hourly, and take a moment to confirm your choice by laying by whatever thoughts you have and dwelling briefly only upon this. The world I see has nothing that I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. And as we close this practice period, take a moment now to thank yourself for taking the time to connect with truth and to remember and activate the state of peace and happiness within yourself. And remember to carry this sense of gratitude and inner peace with you as you go about your day, doing what needs to be done, but knowing that you are always connected to the love and joy of God. If you enjoyed and benefited from this,
All right. Hopefully you guys found that helpful. The idea behind it, at least in my connection and choosing that one, is because we're focusing on the separation, right? That beyond this world of separation, when we have that in our projector mind, if the world of scarcity, of getting, of thinking that there's something out there in the world, that if I can just get it right, if I can just fix that problem, if I can just get enough of money or cheese or whatever it might be, property, I'll then feel secure. So it's a world of getting, but beyond this world of getting, of fixing, of doing, there is a world of being and of giving. And from that place, when we give, in that world of giving, ironically, that void that we've been trying to fill with getting actually is filled. It's filled when you give, because then you remember that you already have everything. You can only know that when you give it, because then you're like, whoa, there's love flowing out of me. What the hell is this? I must have love within me. And then you realize, oh, not this Patrick character. I'm the Holy Son of God. And that's when, yeah, it's a weird thing that took me a while to catch on to, but the course emphasizes it over and over and over, that we learn to remember that we have by giving. And so yeah, so that's what I focused on in that meditation, was of switching from the world of getting, of thinking this world has something that I need to get out of it. Instead, remember that everything is a call for love. And so if I just give to every problem, to every situation, to every person that crosses my mind or that shows up within my day, that is my role. And that is how I can tune into that world beyond this one, that is heaven. And that it's just giving. That's all it is. And it's everything we ever want. All right.
Yeah, and it's such a total reversal to the world mind.
Yeah, it really is. And because it makes no sense, because we feel like we're so lacking, and we need to get something, right? So like, what do you mean give? I have nothing to give, but we always do. And so
Mhm.
it wakes you up to something on a different level. It's great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
great lesson. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming out, guys. All right. Until next week, I'll end the recording here.
Thanks, Patrick.